Well, everybody to our very first North Country Live Summer Series, and I really want to thank you for attending. Oops, this is, I'm all muted. So I would like to thank you for attending. Can everyone hear me okay? Marissa, can you just confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, and everybody else that I am seeing is shaking their head.
Okay, excellent. So I would like to introduce our co-host for this evening, and that is Marissa. Marissa has been so kind to walk me through all of the different nuances of Zoom and how to get on and how to mute and how to have a co-host. And tonight she will be co-hosting our event. So I want to thank Marissa for doing that. She's also going to be able to help you during the presentation via the chat feature. So if you kind of hover over the presentation, you'll see where you'll be able to type something into a chat. And so if you have a question during this discussion, just go right ahead and write a little message to Marissa, and she'll be able to get it to me. She's also going to mute your microphones, but we want you to be able to talk if you have a question. So if you are not speaking, we'd ask that you just please mute your microphone, and that really helps everybody hear just a little bit better. So a great big huge thank you to Marissa, and also thank you for the opportunity to share committee that has created this North Country Live summer series. So we're very thankful for all the people that brought their ideas together and help us to hammer out how we could reach out to our communities in such a difficult time as this is right now. Going to go forward here. So when we're looking at this virus, for like the last 100 days or so, all of us have been impacted in one way, shape, or form by this virus that we refer to as COVID-19. Now, this virus is something we can't see, it's something we can't smell, we can't taste it. We don't even completely understand this thing, and we're not even 100% sure how to prevent it or how to protect ourselves. Literally, this thing has changed everything. Us here tonight have either lost our jobs, we've been furloughed, we've juggled working from home, we've struggled teaching our children, trying to understand Common Core math. We've worried about even going to the grocery store for something as simple as bread. We wonder if our jobs are going to be there when we need them, and when all of this kind of, goes away, what is it going to look like? Are we going to need to move? Are we going to need to retrain? Are our jobs going to be there when we're finished? How are we going to survive? And most likely all of us here have probably had somebody we know or a relative has either had the virus or hopefully has not died from the virus. But this has been something that has really, truly impacted all of us in so many different ways. And when we look at this, when we think about all of those different aspects of this virus, all of this can leave us shattered. It can leave us feeling broken. It can make our minds confused on whether we need masks or we don't need masks, whether we need to distance, and is there something different between physical distancing and social distancing, and can I see my children, or is it safe to go see my elderly relatives? Or what happens to those relatives when I can't go visit them? And we've seen so many pictures on the news of our elderly relatives in nursing homes, and their hands are on the windows looking through. They're dying alone. This has been very, very difficult for everyone, and all of this creates stress, a lot of stress. And stress, it can have really a lot of different harmful effects on us, both physically and emotionally. And our immune system becomes compromised, which makes us more vulnerable to disease. We can start having difficulty thinking, we can have difficulty problem solving and staying on task, and potentially that sabotages everything that we try to accomplish. So stress sometimes can be good in little parts, right? But when we have stress that's everywhere, when it's in every aspect of our life, it can be very harmful. It can create something that we call anxiety. Now, anxiety, a lot of us are wondering, like, what is anxiety? What really does it mean? And anxiety is that nagging little feeling of worry. It seeps into every part of our life. And it makes us do things that might not be characteristics. Like it could make us obsessive, right? Where we worry about something, or we have to go check 5 times whether we locked the door, right? It can make us obsessive. It can make us really restless, right? Where we might not be able to sit still, where we might not be able to sleep restfully, right? Where we always have to move, where we have to kind of continually, do something to stay busy. It can make our heart beat faster, right? It can make it feel like it's fluttering. It can also make it feel like it's hard to even take a deep breath. Anxiety can be awful. It can be absolutely awful. And what makes it worse? On the outside, we look normal. I used to enjoy having the students do an exercise when I was teaching a mental health class for nurses. I would have them close their eyes, and go ahead and do that now. Just close your eyes, and I'd like you to imagine a book or a movie or maybe an experience that you've had in your life where you felt just wonderful or scary or some type of feeling, whatever it happens to be, and really get yourself into that moment where you can smell the things around you, you can feel what's happening is so real, and you can really have that sense of being in that moment. Are we there? Well, guess what I see? Guess what I see? From my perspective, all I see are a bunch of people sitting still with their eyes closed. Now, your experience might have brought you to different places. Maybe it was some romantic scene in a movie. Maybe it was some scary fight or kung fu, scene someplace. Or maybe it was sitting by the ocean, feeling the waves lap up and smelling that beautiful salt air. But on the outside, me just kind of looking at you, all I could see were people sitting there. And that's the problem with anxiety. You can be feeling these visceral reactions, something that's so specific, yet on the outside, you look kind of normal. You don't really look like anything's happening. Okay, so we can be fighting this inner battle. We can be struggling with our fears, and no one necessarily knows that anything is going on. And you know what? That makes us feel even more isolated than we already are. And if there's anything that all of us feel right now, it's isolation. And anxiety seems to heighten that. We'll kind of tell this virus that, you know what, buddy, you just need to stop. You need to go away. And we need to start living again. But how do we do this? Well, as the song goes, get yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again, right? How do we do that, though? That sounds so easy, but can be so difficult. Well, that's what we call resilience, okay? Resilience is this ability. It's what we have to recover from. It's how we adjust to misfortune or change. The quote says easily, okay? It says an ability to recover or to adjust easily to misfortune or change. But I would like to say easily isn't always the case, right? I'd like to beg to differ on that. And it might be easy for some to be able to kind of bounce back or roll with those punches, but it also might be difficult for others. But being able to come back is what resilience is all about. Any way you toss it, whether it's easy or hard, it's just that pulling yourself up, dusting yourself off, and getting back to it. That's what resilience is all about. Now, why is resilience important? Well, it's important because if you're resilient, okay, you'll be able to face, you'll be able to overcome, and you'll even be able to personally strengthen or be strengthened by the challenges and the different problems that we have in our life. Resilience is this ability, is the ability to bounce back from those difficult times in life. And I know we can all relate. I know we all have seen this person who just has time and time again something happening major in their life, and they just seem to take it in stride and roll with it and just kind of move on, right? That's what resilience is. And there's characteristics that we see in resilient people, and I'll go through some of those. Now, resilience doesn't make the problems go away. Just because we're saying, well, I bounced back from that that one, it doesn't make those problems go away, and it doesn't solve all of our problems, but it just helps us to cope. It helps us to adjust, and it helps us to stay on our feet. You know, resilience allows us to face a problem or challenge, and it helps us to overcome it and get back to life a little bit stronger and hopefully a little bit wiser. It's coping with adversity, right? In ways that boost our own well-being and hopefully protect us from being too overwhelmed. That's what resilience is. Now, it really doesn't matter how we or who has our back in life, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends, our relatives, our teachers, our coaches. The point is having a solid support system is going to be really an important part of resilience. And again, those people can be anyone, from a community member to a friend to a coworker to even neighbors, okay? The people in our support system, you know, they need to give us understanding. They need to help us with guidance and comfort. And, you know, when we're struggling with a problem, that's what's really important, okay? Now, it's good to learn to ask for help, especially from the people that we trust and the people that support us. And we know that that's really difficult sometimes, right? We see sometimes like asking for help as a weakness, but it's really not a weakness. It's more of a strength. It's that inner strength because we know that we need something, and that connection to a person is something positive, right? It's something very positive. And creating this social network is going to be really important when we consider how to increase our resiliency. Now, another good characteristic of resiliency is giving back. Now, it might seem really odd to suggest giving to others to kind of help us get through our own problems. You're thinking, you know, how does that work? I got all these problems. How am I going to give? But actually giving helps to support us. It actually gives us more, you know, more insight, okay? Something more to hang on to, right? But keeping our commitments to ourselves is going to be detrimental, right? So we really have to think, how can we give and how can we give back to people? So whether we're looking at our family or our friends or volunteering, giving back is going to be something that really helps us more. I know every year we get to go to Honduras on a global brigade, and I have my one friend who says, why do you do that? I mean, you're giving so much, it's costing so much. Why would you do that? And I always remark that, you know, we get back so much more than we actually give. You know, we give a little, but just to see the smiles, just to know that you've impacted somebody in some way, it really makes you feel good. And in times when we need that resilience, giving back is something that is really wonderful. And, you know, I think something that we all question about is, where will I have the opportunities? You know, I live in this itty bitty little town, wherever, right? How am I going to give back? You know, what opportunities are there? Well, there are lots of volunteer opportunities. I just think in my little community of Minerva, you know, we have food pantries, we have backpack programs. In some of our bigger towns, we have literacy programs, you know, helping people prepare for GED courses. There are lots of different ways that we can give back. But, you know, giving back can be something as easy as giving a smile, saying hello, maybe returning a phone call or an email. So giving back is something that will be very important and help us in our challenge to be more resilient. Now, one thing that's important is not to give in. Don't give in. Don't give in to the struggle. Now, resilient people, they learn to accept the emotional pain and stress as just kind of, well, that's life, right? That's just part of life. They don't allow their difficulties to define them. Instead, they recognize their feelings, they acknowledge the problems that they're facing, and they trust that they have the ability to face their problems and believe that they have the strength to maintain their emotional balance. Now, Barack Obama said something so wonderful. He said, you know, don't let your failures define you. Let them teach you. And I love that because, you know, so many things we let define who we are. Don't let them define us. It's things that happen to us, but it is not us, okay? They aren't part of us. And the same thing when we have, you know, all of these struggles. They are something that helps to mold us, maybe something that we learn to grow from, but they don't define us. They teach us. change is inevitable, right? And we need to accept it. Accepting the fact that some things change is really just a basic part of resilience. Now, when our goals, our plans, our ideas, or our hopes are dashed because of unavoidable circumstances, a flexible and an accepting attitude will really help us to focus on new plans or new hopes. If these changes didn't come in or come along, we might stay on the same road every single day and never really think about opportunities that might be in front of us. So as hard as change can be, if we can just kind of give it a big hug, I mean, it's safe to hug change without a mask, but if we can just kind of give it a big hug and allow it to help us grow, change will help us build more resistance. Now, another thing that we see with resilience or increasing our resiliency is choosing our attitude, okay? Now, most of the time we don't get to choose the obstacles, and we certainly don't get to choose the difficulty that life puts in our path, but it's good to remember that we always do get to choose the attitude, and especially the attitude towards diversity, right, or adversity. During hard times, it's helpful to find someone positive to think or help us to imagine something positive. Sometimes things are so bad we need to say, all right, I need to bring somebody in and say, what positive do you see? Help me here because I'm kind of stuck in the negative. So bring somebody in and say, what positive do you see? Help me change my perspective. Help me change my attitude so that I see something as maybe more positive than and less negative. Now, even if we don't have all the answers to whatever the solution has to be to our problems, it helps when we can just say, I can think about this different. This right here is not what I was expecting, and it's certainly not what I wanted. But look at the challenge I'm going to have ahead of me. Look at the opportunity to really, really, really work my brain cells and try to figure out a different way around. There was a man who was dying of pancreatic cancer many years ago, and he wrote a book called The Last Lecture, and I think that's what it was. And he wrote this lecture that everyone thought was for his students. Okay, and one part of the lecture he talked about, all of us, at times in our life come up against this brick barrier, right? And he goes, that barrier stops us dead in our tracks most of the time. He says, but that barrier is such an opportunity because when we hit that barrier, we have a choice. And that choice is we can say, well, that's it. I need to stop. I need to turn around. I need to not follow my dream. Or that barrier can be something that we look at and say, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to figure out how to go around that. I'm going to make this barrier something that I catapult off. And that's really a way to look at the attitude and choose which way we're going to look at that. Are we going to look at this as this is the worst thing that has ever happened in my life? It's certainly been challenging. Or are we going to say, well, now this has given us some opportunities that I never saw coming before, right? So changing our attitude and really thinking about it different is something that will help with our resiliency, something to help us kind of catapult into hopefully a more favorable direction. And that helps us to change our perspective, okay? Keeping it in perspective. Now, when a resilient person faces adversity, okay, they're likely to avoid making things worse, hopefully by jumping to extremes, and they'll tell themselves that their troubles won't last forever, right? And they don't see every bump in the road as catastrophic. They understand that things can't be perfect, and they have more realistic expectations of themselves, and they see what they can achieve, right? But they really try to keep things in perspective. Sometimes we think, oh, this is the end of the world, whatever that happens to be. This is the worst thing. Yet when we look back at that moment, a couple of years down the line, sometimes we realize that was the best thing that ever happened to me. That put me on a trajectory that I never saw coming. That put me on a trajectory or a path where all of these things, whatever they may happen to be, have happened. And had that negative thing or that obstacle not occurred, that path may never have been something that we ever considered taking. So keeping perspective is something that's very a good characteristic, especially when we're looking at resiliency. Now, humor, we can't go far in life without humor, right? And you might have heard that laughter is the best medicine. And really, if you're able to laugh at yourself, I think that that's a wonderful characteristic, just laughing at yourself and being able to find those funny things in you, okay? And when we think about laughter, it not only helps us emotionally, but it also helps us physically. It helps us to boost that immune system so that when this virus or a virus or anything, a pathogen comes along, hopefully we'll have a little bit more fight in us. So when we're thinking about humor, we try to find something funny, right? And when we're thinking about it, try to find somebody who's going to be uplifting. Maybe call a friend. Watch an old I Love Lucy rerun. I love those. Those are so funny. Or something else I thought of is maybe find an old photo of yourself when you remember at that time thinking that I understand everything, right? And then you can laugh. And then you can laugh really hard, knowing that how naive I was, right? So laughing at yourself or finding humor, finding something funny that's happening in all around us. And humor, that will help us with our resilience. Another thing that will help is finding and connecting to that inner being, right? Drink up all of the good around us. Look for the beauty in everything. There is beauty all around us. I was just eating dinner before we started, and there was a bird that was singing, and it sounded like it was right at the table with me. It was right outside, and I stopped and I just thought, that is the most beautiful sound. We are so fortunate to have all these beautiful things to look at. We live in such a beautiful area. We have clean water, we have clean air, we have good people, we have low crime, we have so many things to be thankful for. We have woods that we can run through, right? We can soak up the energy of the forest, so many things. And connecting and realizing, and thinking about all of that beauty that is around us will really help us with our resilience. Now, to help us improve our resilience, there's a couple things that we can do. One is connect, right? Find a Zoom meeting someplace and attend, right? Call your grade school buddy. Maybe bake some cookies for your neighbor, right? Draw them up. Just connect in some way. How about setting some goals that might lead you in a meaningful way and maybe add some purpose? And try to learn from our experiences, right? My goodness, if we think of all the skills that we have learned during this pandemic, is really quite impressive. I mean, we're Zooming, okay? We're texting, we're teaming, we're working on all of these office programs that who the heck knows what they stand for sometimes, right? And we're multitasking like never before. And some of us are getting kind of good at this too. And yeah, we've had some challenges. We've had some of these things, where we had to learn new ways. But some of these new ways might actually be better than some of those old ways. I mean, who knew, right? And we do now, right? So we have to really kind of look at all of these wonderful things we have learned. And hope, hope springs eternal, right? Hope springs eternal. And seeing the good, finding that glimmer, focusing on that silver lining, it's there. Believe in it and trust in that process. We also need to take care of ourselves, right? If we don't take care of ourselves, who will we help or how will we help others, right? Think about what we put into our bodies. Think about what we do with our bodies. It's all we have, and we really need to give it a bit of attention every now and again. And the last thing I'd say to improve our resilience is be proactive. We don't have to wait for the ball to roll down the hill and spend the rest of our energy chasing it, saying, wait, right? We can be the change. We can make the change. We can push that ball. We can do it in whatever direction we want. We can be proactive, and we don't have to be reactive. All of these are things that we can do to help improve our resilience. Stay open-minded, right? Stay focused. Be flexible. Things are going to come our way, and it's sometimes it's just another opportunity to maybe exercise, to jump another hoop, or to try to cantilever over another barrier. Stay connected, but also exercise. Get out and enjoy the fresh air, or do Zumba, with your computer, whatever it happens to be. Nurture your relationship with your family, with your friends, with your Zoom buddies, whatever it happens to be. Do those things, and that will help build and help us to establish more resiliency. Now, just a couple of tips, all right? Tip 1, let yourself feel lousy every once in a while. You know, you can't have a good day every day. And some days you just say, you know what, this is a bad day. And it's probably going to be a bad day all day. But you know what happens? The next day you wake up and it's a brand new start. But someday we're going to have bad days, and that's okay. So just allow yourself, I'm going to feel lousy today, and that's okay, all right? Know that you're the only one who can control your fate. You know, sometimes we think about, well, they, you know, them, all of that, but it's really us. We get to make our decisions. We're the ones that help shape. We're the ones that define who we are, right? So we're the only ones that get to describe and get to control our own fate. You know, I like to think about writing. You know, if we were a character, how would we define us? How would we write, or what would we write that says, this is who I am, or this is who you are? What would you write? Or maybe what would you want written if you were a character and somebody else was describing you, right? We control that. We control those definitions. Also, another thing that's important is to keep yourself value-centered. We know our values, and those values are what make us what we are, or who we are, right? So keep ourselves value-centered. It's so easy to go off in all these tangents thinking that's going to be the biggest, that's going to be the best, or that's the most important. But really what's the most important is staying centered and true to ourselves, right? And that's maintaining and staying value-centered. Recharge with a workout. You know, recharge with a workout, whether it's running, whether it's walking, whether it's doing some Zumba, right? Make our body happy. And you can help make your body happy by doing a workout, really realizing that this body needs some physical exercise. It needs to have all of its muscles moving. It needs to have its blood flowing and its heart pumping. And that is best achieved if we have a nice workout. So think about your body. It's another great tip. Probably one of the best tips that I can say is don't set unrealistic goals. That can sabotage yourself, right? We can have this goal, I'm going to achieve this, or by a certain time, I'm going to have this happen or that happen. And you know, many of those things just aren't realistic. And when we set unrealistic goals, it can start that nasty little self-sabotaging, and we don't want that. So set realistic goals so that we can achieve them and we can start building that resilience within us. Another thing we can do is express our feelings, whether it's our sadness, whether it's our anger, whether it's our gladness or our happiness, expressing our feelings, whether it's writing them down and just expressing them to ourselves, or you know, or calling a friend and telling them what we feel. You know, in my world, if I could have the perfect world, it would be a musical, right? Where we had this happen and that happens, it builds to all this emotion, and then we break out into a song and dance. That to me would be the perfect world, just expressing our feelings in whatever way we feel. But by expressing those feelings, it helps us to feel better. It helps us to bounce back and become more resilient. And if we take the I am out, nothing is impossible. And I, you know, hope that we have you know, maybe found some inspiration in this talk tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that we can become a little bit more resilient, because there is life after this COVID-19. There will be a return to some type of normalcy, whatever that is. Life will continue, but you know what I like to think about? There's a lot of good happening right through, you know, right through all of these moments. I mean, even like this, I wouldn't be talking to all of you through Zoom. I wouldn't be able to meet you. I wouldn't have some of my friends or some of your friends attending if it weren't for this situation where we find ourselves having to do outreach in other ways. So, you know, we can concentrate on those good things and really look at the benefits that we have right in front of us, right around us. As I kind of wrap things up, I just want to make sure that I mention a couple big thank yous. One to the North Country Foundation. The foundation is so supportive of everything we do at the college, and they're really dedicated to our students, really, you know, helping us to maintain a quality education and helping us to give our students all of the experiences that they need to be successful in their lives and their careers. So we're very thankful to the foundation for all they do. I'm also, again, going to plug the opportunity to share committee. We've been meeting weekly for the last month or so, and we've really joined together with some great ideas, and I really thank them for all their time. The North Country Enrollment Department, and most importantly, I thank all of you for taking your time on this evening to share that with me and to join in with this lecture. I just want to let you know we have a couple of events coming up. Next Thursday we have mindfulness and mental health with Angela Bryce, and after that we have tools to manage your stress with Michelle Pearsall. The month of July is going to be filled with the focus on financial literacy. So many of us are like going, I have no idea what compounding interest means and all of that. And so we're going to have some really good guest speakers, some of our staff and some of our members from the community coming in to talk about those business aspects and career readiness. And August is going to be all about history, history in our towns and in the surrounding area. So we please hope that you'll have time to join us for some of those lectures. And if you need more information, please visit us at northcountry.edu or ncccc.edu/live. And now I'd like to open it all up for some questions.
So everybody can unmute themselves. I have given you guys permission to do that, but you can also in the chat type in a question if you're uncomfortable with talking over the microphone, and I'd be able to relay that to Selena. In the chat, I have also added in the website for the North Country Foundation page, as well as the live page, so you can sign up for our future sessions.
Selena, this is Mike Corey.
Hello, Mike Corey. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, certainly. It's a pleasure, hearing about this stuff and this resilience and things. I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment and something that we here in my household have learned about, and that is trying to limit time with TV news channels, with social media. That stuff just produces anxiety nonstop, and it can become very, very addictive. So one needs to get out of the house. I mean, early on, it was quarantine stuff, basically, and we're kind of stuck. But now it's a little bit different. Things have slipped a little bit in terms of that. We can get out. You can go out and enjoy the woods. I have rediscovered the woods like crazy. It's just an amazing thing. And it provides a great place to be, to get a little solace, to get a little exercise. So I would absolutely agree with you that getting out into the woods and getting outside and leaving your home is a very good idea. Thank you for all of this.
Oh, absolutely. And that is a great point. You're right, Mike, because, the news can be enlightening, but it can also be something that we can obsess over, and it can become, something that is good and something that can create negativity for some, certainly not all. But no, I think that's a really good point. Sometimes we just need to get out of the house, right, and go see that there's a big world out there and so many positive things happening. That's great comments. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. How about anybody else? Hello, David.
Hi, I just had a brief question. Is there some way to strike the balance that Mike was just talking about? Like, I don't want to be uninformed. I watch what the governor says every 2 or 3 days, governor of New York, because he gives us an update on all the information. But is there some way to know what enough is enough, or do you just have to know?
Well, I think it's important to know our own limits, because, what might be enough is enough for me might be something different for someone else. I think when we listen to the news and we find it interesting and informative and not anxiety producing, then, maybe that's good. But when we're watching the news and we're finding that it's affecting our sleep, or, we're getting all these heart palpitations or something else, then, maybe that's the clue that maybe it's a little bit too much and we need to take a break. I don't know if there is anything that we can really say this is the criteria. It's probably going to be more personal, but it is something that we do need to watch. No, I agree.
A psychologist friend of mine told me one time, if you have to watch the news, don't watch it at bedtime. So I guess with YouTube and so forth, we can choose when we want to watch it. When we have the whole day to wash our minds and get clear of it by bedtime. So maybe that's
Exactly.
what's that.
Yeah, or exactly. Or sometimes, yeah, sometimes not even listening to it. You know, you can always go on whatever your station is or whatever, you know, networkyoulik.com, right? And you can look at it. And sometimes reading it is easier than listening to it. So, or watching it. You know, I know, you know, sometimes, you know, seeing footage and video can be very disturbing, and reading might be easier for some. So, you know, maybe that's an avenue that might be easier for people to get the news, get the information they want, but not kind of have that bombarding of noise or information. Good points. Any other questions?
Hey, Selena, it's Cammie.
Hey, Cammie.
Hey, so to just build off of what David, his question and concern, you know, so I, as a social psychologist, inundate myself with probably much more information with regard to self-help and maintaining during this time. But, you know, I feel we're in a position of whiplash. And so as a country and as a society, you know, we've been told to quarantine and self-isolate. And, you know, I really like the idea where people talk about physical distancing versus social distancing, because there is a marked difference. Physical distancing, we understand that that's quantifiable. Six feet is measurable. Whether somebody's wearing a mask is observable. The social distancing, I think really we understand what the idea behind it is, but it sends a separate message. And I've noticed in my couple of months here in Lake Placid, I see people looking at license plates. I'm a runner, so I go out every day, and as I'm running, I found myself looking at license plates. Where are people from? Where, you know, and I get it. If I was in New York City, if I was, you know, in the Tri-Lakes area, or sorry, the Tri-City region of, you know, the Albany, New York City, New Jersey, the Tri-States, it makes total sense why people want to escape. But it's the whiplash comes with the death of George Floyd, and he is only an icon, and not by choice, of the whiplash. And so here, people are feeling that, you know, we need to separate, we need to maintain this distance, but now we have this whole other event happening that has created for so many people this cognitive dissonance, or this difficulty with how do I express myself in my anger, or how I feel, whatever that is, and still maintain my health. And to get back again to what David was saying, I'm very passionate about all of it. And what I've had to do for my own well-being is I wake up every morning and I give myself 10 minutes of NPR does what you need to know in 10 minutes. Because if you listen to the same conversations, it becomes an echo chamber. And that echo chamber can be really unhealthy. And so it's hard to turn it off. So I'm allowing myself 10 minutes in the morning. And then by 3 o'clock, I'll listen again, but then I'm done. So you're the highlight of my evening, which you would be regardless of what I'm doing. But by 3 o'clock on any given day, I'm reading a book, I'm spending time with my family, I'm doing all sorts of things, but I'm not watching the nightly news, because for somebody who is supposed to understand all of this on some level, I actually am experiencing anxiety, because I call it cultural whiplash. And so it really comes down to I'm walking a lot more, running more, and going inside. And it's a great time to go inside, meaning introspection as to where one stands with it all. And it's okay not to have all the answers, but you don't need to. Nothing's new, right? Nothing is going to happen unless you're going to get a warning or a news break that happened at 8 a.m. versus probably 8 p.m. But sorry I went on for so long. I'll stop now.
No, I think that's wonderful, and it also just shows that this situation, how there's so many situations. I'll just kind of lump it. This situation in front of us has brought good. I mean, we are maybe looking at do we need to read more? Can we have more introspection? I'm going to distance myself from the media or whatever it happens to be. So there is, there are, I should say, good things that are happening, and we just have to look for them. We just have to kind of say, all right, I'm feeling this, but there's got to be something good here, and we search for it, and we find it. And the more we train ourselves to try to find that good, the easier it is. And the more we see, the more we realize that there's just so many things around us that are good and that are positive, and it helps us, to maybe have a maybe not quite, a pessimistic view of the world, because boy, that's easy. There are a lot of things that are challenges right now. So we need to stay positive. But yeah, thank you. Shabazz?
My name is Shabazz, and I am from Plattsburgh. Just wanted to say something Cami was saying at the end, and that's wonderful. If I hope I understood you correctly, Cami. You're talking about going inside, looking within inside you, see what you are, who we are, looking within yourself. And that, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to do that. For example, I am joining with some other friends every morning at 6:45, and we're having kind of a reflection, meditation, devotional together for half an hour, 45 minutes, which is wonderful. We read from, there is a collection of the book called Hidden Words of Baha'u'llah, or we read from other meaningful writings which elevate the spirit. And then we spend few minutes talking about that and reflecting within ourselves. And I think that is such a, Selena was saying, looking in this, saying what is offering us. Is so many in this time. Is so many things are offered to us, and this is one of them. There are many other things, but I don't want to take the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment, Shabazz. Any other comments? Any other questions?
So if there is no other comment, I would like to do one more comment. I hope you don't mind.
Okay.
And
no, go right ahead.
That is, again, what Selena was talking about here, was don't become a victim of the circumstances. Rise above it. So to one thing to do that is to have a vision. So what is a vision? What is, many people, we are going back to normal. But to my understanding, I may be wrong, and many people probably hope I'm wrong, but there is no back to that normal. But what is the new situation? So looking at it, if we make our vision world embracing, then we see new visions. So many people on the global level are talking about we cannot solve this problem until and unless we globally cooperate. So the other thing is, let us reach and be world embracing. And Cami talked about racism. This is another thing which has happened. What a wonderful opportunity now it is that we do work on race amity. Ask ourselves again, go within ourselves, say, okay, what is my responsibility towards other races, not only black, Latinos, but everyone. What is my relation? And I'm asking myself, how many black friends do I have? How did I behave myself? And reach out. Uh, one, one crazy thing I do is I go sometimes, there's a cemetery here, not very far from me. I go there for relaxing because nobody is there. And the other day I was there, I saw this black person walking. Actually, it was the day before yesterday. And I went to him and, we had some physical distancing. And I asked him, I said, let us talk about this. He was extremely friendly and we became friends. We talked and we exchanged. And I hope I continue a conversation with him. So this is again another opportunity for us to reach out and to root out this evil from our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabazz. Very, very powerful statements there. Thank you for sharing. Kyle, I think you had a question.
Well, that's a real tough act to follow. We should probably just quit right there. But I guess what I was going to mention too, some of you know that I'm back in Minnesota and have been for a couple of weeks, and it's been a tough couple of weeks here. Watching things kind of break apart and literally burn down, and seeing how that is spread across the United States and the world is, it started in my little state of Minnesota. So, which we apologize for. But, it's brought, like a few of you mentioned, a new negativity that's been another layer on top of some already pretty tough times with COVID-19 and the economy and things like that. Just kind of, it's all compounding right now. So, one thing I was going to mention too, dovetailing a little bit off what Cami said was, I've worked most of my professional life in marketing, and a lot of that is social media and things like that. And, it just kind of dawned on me just having a conversation with my folks last week, where we were just hanging out, talking about what's going on. We've got a lot of family and friends that are part of what's going on both sides of everything. So that makes it really weird. But just talking about that and realizing that social media is still a relatively new thing for us. It's been around for 10 to 15 years, but we're learning a lot along the way, the good and the bad. So it kind of dawned on me when I was talking to my parents, because they're getting just hammered with all these negative things. And I don't think they realize that the more you look at things, whether it's Facebook or even YouTube or Instagram or anything, the more you look and start looking, kind of one direction, might be one story that's negative towards a particular group of people or a political party or anything like that. The algorithms behind it are built to serve you more and more of that. So then that becomes your news. So like my parents, they grew up with the evening news, where it was kind of a broad spectrum, kind of covered everything across the globe and tried to be pretty equal. And I really wanted them to understand that this is not that. The more you look at one particular thing, you're going to get more of it. And then you get more of it. And the more you look, it's a rabbit hole, and it just takes you down to the point where you think that the news every day is very negative towards something that's very specific, and you kind of lose track of all the other potentially really good things that are going on in the world because you're just not seeing it there. And that was one thing that since then I've been trying to kind of tell people too, to keep that in mind, because I think people lose track of that. And the more we can share that with people, if you're looking at specific things, look at something totally different, something that's really positive. And then all of a sudden you're going to start getting served more things that are positive in nature, and it really can help kind of pull you out of that rabbit hole. So that was just one thing that was kind of a very recent experience for me that I felt would maybe be helpful sharing with folks.
Well, thank you, Kyle. That's you're right. And and that's exactly what anxiety does. It makes us, obsess about certain things, and and sometimes we obsess about one aspect when there's so many other things happening. That's really good. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that point out. I don't want to take everybody's time. Are there any more questions? No, well, once again, I really want to thank everyone for spending your Thursday evening with us, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. And if you have any ideas, or if you have any comments, or if you have any other programs, or you would like to hear other lectures, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to help and to do outreach in any way that we can. Our college is committed to being a partner in our communities, and this is just one way that we can reach and we can share. So please let us know if you have any ideas. Again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some of the upcoming lectures that we have throughout the weeks and the months ahead. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you so
Selena.
much. Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful presentation.
okay, bye.
Bye.
Much.